Hey guys, I'm going to show you how I'm going to hook up my water gauge from my Suzuki Cara over here. If you've been following my builds, these will look pretty familiar. My oil temp is in the oil sump. The boost is obviously the boost. The water temp was never hooked up because the probe was never put in there because I could never decide where to put it. As with everything on the internet, everything is debatable. So, what I've decided is to come in here. There's a green plug here, and there's like a little yellow wire coming out of that insulated thing. That's the thermostat housing, and that's 2 temperature sensors that go in there. One goes to the cluster and one probably goes to the ECU. I believe the one with the yellow wire exposed right there, that one goes to the cluster. My plan right now is to do everything with the motor in place. Sure, I could take the thermostat housing out and drill and tap it as I need for whatever thread I need for a sensor like this, but it's in the car and I want to do it as is right now. So my options are kind of limited. I have this for my autometer gauge, and it's a 1/8 NPT thread. This doesn't fit in that hole because I believe it's 1/8 gas, which is BSP, British Standard Pipe Thread. I don't know. Whatever, you know what I mean. It's a different thread. So I bought one of these guys. I didn't want to buy the overpriced autometer one. It was like $17 something plus shipping. So I bought one on McMaster. This was like $4 in shipping, and I bought something else anyways. So the idea is this is supposed to be the thread that I need, and this female thread will be the thread I need here. Now I just ran into another problem. This doesn't fit. This hole isn't big enough. I think it tapers. Yeah, it doesn't go in on this side, but it goes in a little bit on this side. If I remove my cluster's probe, the gauge cluster won't work anymore. That's fine, it doesn't really do much anyways. The water temp probe here will go in its place, and my little gauge pod's temperature will work, and it will actually read and tell me how many Celsius it is. I've looked at the manual for the diagrams of coolant flow, and I've looked at the motor and I kind of understand how it works. So cold coolant flows in from the lower radiator hose, and then the hot coolant goes into the upper radiator hose, and then it kind of just cycles through. The thermostat will open when it's hot, allowing it to go towards the radiator, but when the thermostat is cold, it has like a bypass and it kind of just circulates until it gets warm enough to open. The internet debate is, where are you supposed to put this probe for your gauge? Do you put it before the thermostat or after the thermostat? I'm not going to get into that. You guys can Google and go down that rabbit hole, but I'm telling you, I'm going to put mine before the thermostat, which is why I'm going to use that cluster hole. Now, taking the cluster probe out will disable the cluster's activation of the temperature gauge. That's going to bother me too. So it doesn't do much, but I want it to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that cluster probe and just patch it in right after the thermostat. It's easy enough for me to disconnect the hose at some point and then just put one of those couplers in with the little threaded hole for the temperature sensors. That's easy enough to do because that way my cluster completely works, and I'll have my accurate gauge telling me how many Celsius the coolant is. So let's get to it.
I accidentally bumped my camera into the wrong mode here, but what I did was I put it in a vise and I kind of just bored out that brass thing as I needed.
Well, let's get this thing installed now. Do you see there's 2 plugs right here next to that green thing? The green thing is the coolant temperature reader for the ECU. The one to the left of that is for the dash cluster. First you got to unplug it, and then you got to unscrew the thing out of that. I'm not sure if there's going to be coolant flowing out of there, but I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible. First, you got to pull on this connector to release it from the probe. It's just kind of like a ball socket. It just pulls right out. I'm going to try a 12mm deep socket. I believe that'll get me in there. And I just got to prepare for the gush of coolant. Yeah, that works. Got to be prepared. It's really tight in here for me to show you tightening this part, but this new thing I have, I believe it's a 15mm because the 15mm wrench fits. I think that's almost all the way in. It's really hard to get your wrench in there to tighten it. My fitting is a 15mm. I can't find my really deep socket 15mm. That might really help. But I lost a little bit of coolant. It's BSP thread, so you don't need thread sealant. Should be all set once this is all tightened down. I got to get to the wiring behind my driver's seat over there and kind of just pull it through. I may have to patch a little bit to make it a little bit longer because that's what I had to do for the oil probe. You can see down there, that's in my drain. That's in my drain hole right now. And it's got to come all the way up here. Gotta find like an appropriate way to route it too. Huh. Alright. I've measured out my length of wire. It's about 7 feet. I put it through some plastic wire loom. I connected the ends here with the shrink wrap stuff, so it's nice and watertight and strong. This is the end connector to the probe, and this is just additional wire I added, and it's close to the same color, but whatever. I need to feed this through that way over there. That's what I'm deciding to do. That way I can get this nice and neat and tucked away the way it should be. There's like a wire loom hoop right here. I'm gonna put it through there, and then I'm gonna put it down that way. It's basically gonna show up around where the apple pie delete wire is, the catalyst overheat. So I could probably shove that wire that's kind of loose hanging out there too into this same wire loom, and it should be good to route around the subframe. It's the new probe. The other wire is just kind of hanging out here for now. My idea is to hook that up somewhere else, but for now, this is how I'm leaving it. This is what the original probe looks like. Just threads in. It has the sensor just like the other one, and has a weird connector. It's just like a socket. You just pop it on. I gotta find that Monster Sport coolant coupler just to kind of feed this into it. That way, I could still hook that wire back up somewhere, and my dash gauge will still work. I don't have any fuses, so I stole my boost fuse for the water fuse. Just see how it works. It didn't do anything. Hey, it works! Okay, so I'm at 75 degrees Celsius, whatever that is. My dash gauge clearly does not work anymore because it's disconnected. So I'm curious how hot this could get. I'm gonna drive it on the highway tomorrow and find out. It's gonna be a blazing hot day today. It's about 72 degrees right now. It's gonna get it to like 87 or something later on my way home. So I can get a good comparison of like what the temperatures are gonna do, just because it's like 10, 15 degrees hotter. As you can see, I have my trusty air vent tube right here, and it's working very well right now. My AC is still broken. I'll get that fixed eventually. Let's take a look here. This says it's a little bit over 90. It's like 94 degrees Celsius, I think. Let me navigate through here. And that's just me kind of going through these back roads with like low RPM. I'm just kind of chilling. There's a van that's constantly driving over the double yellow when it's turning. As you can see, they're doing it again. It's not as bad as that truck I saw the other day that was doing like all the way on the other side, probably going to take out a motorcycle one day. This guy, bad at driving. So, my oil temps are a little bit under 100 Celsius. This is still hovering about 90. In stop and go traffic, I've seen this go up to about 98 to 100. And if you shut off the car, like even when it says 90 and you shut off the car and then you come back maybe in like 5 minutes or so after a pee break, you will find that the temperature goes over 100 just from sitting there. So it's nice to have it circulate a little bit before you turn it off. Over 100 is not so bad, it's just a little bit above boiling. You don't really get into problems until whatever 235 Fahrenheit is, I guess, typically in most engines. That's probably like 110. I don't know. I don't know Celsius conversions. I'll have to do this in the video after. I've been chilling on the highway, about 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, somewhere between 110 and 120 kilometers per hour. My water temp is now just about 98 Celsius. The oil temp in the sump is about 118 Celsius. And this is about as hot as it gets. And it kind of stays as a constant, no matter how much like cool air is rushing through the radiator or whatnot. And generally, I'm not in boost when I'm just kind of cruising like this either, so I'm not really cooking the system through the turbo. I mean, the turbo's still probably running and stuff, and it's hot, but it's not the same as when it's actually doing boost. It's been about 4 minutes since my last clip, and I'm sitting here idling. You can see I'm just touching 100 there. Almost. 99. 99 and a half, something like that. So the car definitely continues to cook while you can, after like some strenuous highway interstate activity. So that's why I do have a turbo timer down here. It's hiding somewhere. There it is. I set this to like 3 minutes usually. Probably do 5 minutes when it's really hot out. So just to help out with that. go back down a little. It's at like 96, 95. You can hear the fan working real hard. Well, since I'm already idling for it, as I'm leaving now at the end of the day, it's cool to see where the gauges froze, because this is where the power was turned off on it. After the turbo timer ran for about 3 minutes, you can see where the oil sump has cooled down to. It's 96 Celsius. Water temp got to about 98, and that's where it ended up shutting off the car. I'm pretty sure this continued to bubble over, and it would have been a little bit over 100 after that. And so theoretically that wasn't enough. The cooling system isn't really, you know, it's not strong enough to bring it below this. And boost, you know, that's just where it is. So where's my key? So when I turn this on, you're gonna see all the things reset. So all the temps are 40 or less. Now another thing is the magnets are holding on. I got to put the piece of steel back here to help with this magnet because it's still loose, but none of these fell off. It's probably like 90 degrees in this car right now and I have the door closed, but this is holding up very well. All right, it's 86 degrees right now. Let's go for a drive home and we'll see where this kind of gets. It's so hot. My steering squeaks again. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm going about this fast. I've been cruising about maybe 15 miles. Still 80 something, 86 degrees outside. My water temp is a little bit over 100 Celsius. The oil temp is about 124 Celsius. It's spicy. It's spicy in here. And this is definitely helping keep me cool, so that's really handy. That's hot. All right, it's 91 degrees now. And after some stop and go traffic through the city off the highway, you get home, my oil temp is a little bit below 100, it's like 98, and water temp is 94, 94 and a half, something like that. If I turn off the car and just kind of let this kind of bake, I'll let the fan run a little bit, but I'm just gonna let this bake. This is gonna go up to like 100 or more just on its own. So I'm gonna go inside, go pee and whatever, come back in a few minutes. All right, it's been a few minutes. Let's see where we baked to. Oh, there we go. It's probably the hottest I've ever seen it. 115? No, 105 Celsius. 105 Celsius. It'll quickly cool down from there once the coolant kind of circulates though. The fan is already turned off and we're getting to about 94 Celsius and still dropping. And dropping. And about 90 is where it kind of just hangs out from this point forward. Occasionally it'll go a little bit further down, but today is really hot, so that looks about right. All right, one more clip. I've been idling and kind of just reversing slowly, backing around, doing all kinds of stuff to get around my patch that's I'm not supposed to drive on for a bit. But that, it started heating up back up to 98 Celsius. And that's really just me idling and kind of rolling around. I mean, yeah, there's no airflow through the radiator, so that kind of makes sense. But this is interesting. It's very good to know. It's very good that I got a day this cold today. It's 55 degrees, so it's like 20 degrees cooler than the prior test. I'm driving about the same, a little bit slower now because I'm talking. And then over here, you can see the temperatures have chilled around like 90, 88. So this is what the stock cooling system can do when it's not too hot outside. The old temp is still 100, and I'm really interested in what's going on here. I had to briefly go through a town, and when I was kind of like idling and revving up here and there, just like 2 miles of driving through some red light stuff, and this got up to like 94, but it never climbed any higher than 94. But now that I'm back on the big road again, the airflow is definitely helping this a bunch. So I guess now I have some kind of expectation of the NAVIC radiator. Look, a smart car looks so big. So I don't know, I have some expectation that the NAVIC radiator can keep this below 100 when it's hot outside. I don't know, wishful thinking. Let's find out. Even in the colder temps, I've been at auto for a little bit now, temps creep up to almost 100. But as long as there's airflow, it works. I'll get around to installing the NAVIC radiator in my car and go over how to do it. Then I'll do a comparison video with like side by side of the temperature gauge, I don't know, with similar driving behaviors and as close to the temperature as I can, just to see how much better this actually is than stock. Subscribe so you get notified about this video when I get to it, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.